Hey guys, back again. In this new tutorial, we're going to check how to use dark and light modes and how to switch using HTML, CSS, and plain JavaScript. Okay, this process you can take it to Angular, React, Next.js, whatever you want because it's pretty simple. It's just using plain CSS, and I've seen examples using SAS or SCSS, but let's just keep it simple using plain CSS. Okay, so we can see what is the process, and then we can just move forward in order to apply it whenever or wherever we want. So we have this simple page which only has a title, okay, some description or definitions, and this random title, which is a section. This one is containing, I think it's a section, I can remember. Two images just to show something, and this is kind of a landing page. Okay, so we have the title here, and we have this call to action that we could make it more, you know, more brilliant. Change the color, in order to keep or to catch the eye. But this is just an example, so let me just show you this. Okay, so we can click here, and you can see we have this little transition, and I want to tell you that we need to keep an eye of how we're going to handle the colors of both modes, because you will need to change using whichever styling you have, CSS or SAS or less. You will need to make several changes depending on how good each section or each button is going to look in the different modes. Okay, so you need to keep an eye on that and keep it as simple as you need. So yeah, I wanted to do something similar, okay, just before we start coding to this, but I didn't want to add a button that is going to, you can do this with JavaScript. I just wanted to show you the process of how to change this, but let's take a look at this, because they select, well, they keep us this tick inside or on top of what we select. So we can select the white and it changes to the white, so we cannot or we can select this, but it's not going to do anything since it's white already, and we can change and it gives us this little tick. So I wanted to do something similar to that. Okay, and we have this transition which they don't have, and well, and another thing, let's refresh, and we keep the dark mode. Okay, I just wanted to do something there, and if we refresh, they just wipe the information and we start white again. Okay, so this is going to be, I think, a fast tutorial, but I don't know. So let's just dive into the code and start working. So I'm going to keep this one, and let's add a new folder. As I said, this is plain HTML CSS, so let's say dark mode YouTube, and let's add this from scratch, say index. I need to change my keyboard, that HTML. Some keys are to feel like they are stuck, so I need to change it. So just let me follow this. Okay, we have the index.html. We're going to use a main CSS, main.css, and we need functions, because I don't want you to do the inline functions.js, because that is not how you are going to work in the real world. You are not going to set the JavaScript inside the HTML. but in fact you're going to use it inside another file. So let's just um, use that way now. So let me just have this already open. So let's just open this, and first of all let me dispose what I had there. So let's open this with code. It opens on my other screen, so let me move this here, and let's start with HTML. I have Emmet installed, okay, so we can skip all these bare bones or skeleton configurations. So we can say light, not there. I don't know why it keeps that selected, but here inside the title, let's say light, and in order to use the entities, I'm going to say amp, which is the ampersand, and dark mode. This is the correct way of using whatever you want, which is not a character, okay? Something that is a special character that could in fact inflict some damage if done wrong. Is going to be set with these special entities like the ampersand. So we can say let me say ampersand, or we can say the ticks, okay? And of course we can set those using entities which render any bad code into a harmless thing. So div class container, I haven't recorded in a while, so I'm a little rusty there. I was exploring some other things other than programming. So you know, projects have been pretty low lately, so I just want to move on and to see what else I could do. So list anchor href. So this is just a simple link. We can add a hash there and say just the same light and dark here inside the anchor, and okay, that's it. That's going to be the first part of the navigation. And let's say lol, not that, let's say ul, and it should close, right? And I'm just going to copy this because it's the same thing that as we have done before. This anchor, learn more. We're going to style this with CSS in order to look like a button, and we have the span class dark and the class light active, which is in fact the two circles which contain the color that we want to change. We're going to see that in a second in the browser, so let's just save this and continue. I'm going to add a header, so let me just copy this. You can add actually whatever you want here because this is not that important. This is actually something in order to give us some, you know, some content. So we have this h1, learn to handle light and dark modes on your website, and this paragraph with a break, and the other paragraph. The break is only to give us some space without using CSS. Sometimes you will see that, sometimes people will want to work with CSS. That depends on how you want to handle that. Now we have a section, and inside this section, and let me just tell you this, okay? Here on sections, articles, main tags, whatever, you need to set h2, okay? That's the thing that you need to do. You don't want to say, you don't, well, yeah, you can say h1, but this is not semantic, okay? I always try to keep semantic in my HTML. So you only have, okay, well, there's a rule, okay? In order to make the HTML semantic, you will only place the h1 once, okay, inside the header tags, Okay, that's the only place where you're going to place an h1, and it's only one. Okay, because this is the main header, or the main the main heading for the full website. Okay, in order to set other headings, that's why we have h1 through h6, so we can have some hierarchy there. And okay, to keep it semantic, we're going to say h2 on each section, and we can repeat h2 whenever we want, starting in this section. Why? Just this is just a semantic little thing that you need to be aware of. If we remove the section, okay, the h2 is going to imply a new section. Okay, so this, everything below this until we find another h2 or h3 is going to be taken as a new section. Okay, so all this is going to be a new section, and all what comes beneath this is going to be a new section. But in this case, we can just say also section, and to specify that we want this to be a real section, not something that is implicit using h2. Okay, so this keeps the semantic in place. And after that, I'm just going to say div below this, inside this section. And in order to be semantic, of course, let's say main, because this is the main content of the page. Okay, I see people using h1 everywhere, and still semantic HTML is a strong point that you need to learn. Okay, because people are going to ask you to be semantic in order to comply with Google rules. So you just need to keep an eye on that. And also accessibility is a thing now. Well, it should have been always a thing, but now with the news that were, the Domino's thing that happened and all that, so we will take a look on accessibility later. So now we need to do something else, which is to add a new script below. I'm sorry if this for people that are new into HTML, I don't want you to take the wrong path, because it's going to bite you in the ass later. Although right now it's not something that is going to break your code or anything, but it's going to come back and bite you in the ass when you are more experienced. So it's better to learn this right away and to just keep an eye on that. So we add a new script for our function.js, which is this file. Okay, and I just need to add one more thing, which is my style sheet. So let me just add the link there below here. And if you don't know what is this viewport is in order to specify the page to be the device width and not to be scaled. Okay, so it looks the way it should be in mobile devices. So let's save this and let's actually go live. I also have the live server, so let me show you my, and I just saw that they have a Python now, a Python IntelliSense, I think, inside the marketplace. So you will, when we go back to Python, we will use that. So let me show you what I have. I have Emmet, and I have, so let's say a live server, and I have live server, which allows us to, when we go live, use this server in order to check what we have. So I forgot and I didn't add anything here, sorry. So this is going to, okay, no, in fact this is actually where we're going to place the color, so that is going to be changed with CSS. Okay, so as you can see, okay, this is already disposed. If I refresh this, it's going to break, but you can see that these are the buttons or the spans, which in fact don't have any content. And let me just, well, let me see, we have in 5500. So if I refresh, it's not going to break, it's going to take our new code. So, yep. And let's go to the main CSS in order to add first the import. Okay, if you are asking yourselves or are trying to figure out what is this, let's go to Google Fonts again. So inside Google Fonts, we can see that let's actually select Roboto. It doesn't matter. And we have this import. At import, just copy this for the font that you want to use. Copy this and paste it in your main CSS, or you can paste it inside your index, whatever fits your style. But this shouldn't be any problem, okay, because it's just a file with a certain font, and it shouldn't take too much to load, because although you can customize here whatever you want, we only have the regular font. So we can place the import here without any problem, and we're going to use some variables. So let me just copy this. Okay, we're going to use some CSS variables to set the background dark to be this color, the font dark to be, when we are on the background dark, we want the font to be white, and we want the background light to be this whitish, and whenever we are inside the light background, we want the font to be dark. Okay, so this is the logic behind this. And we add the transition all for everything inside the HTML to be 0.500 seconds, which is 500 milliseconds, and is in out, in order to give that little transition that you saw. So we need to make a few changes, or just a single change here, which is, let me just get this one. We need to add this data inside the HTML, this data theme. You can look for the data, I think is, let me say, W3 data attribute, in order to understand what this data dash and the rest is the attribute. People bash this website, but this website is actually in compliance with the the W3 rules. Okay, so it's something that you will sometimes come into this page. So you have these custom attributes with data dash, and we can actually select those. So you can see data animal type, and we can select that data. They'll tell you to store custom data private to the page or application. Okay, so we have that data inside the HTML, okay, on line 2, and we give it the first value of light, which is going to change using JavaScript in order to give us the dark mode and light mode. So let's save this, and let's save this. So let's go to main CSS again, and I'm just going to copy this first part. So we can select the HTML and data theme and check if that is dark. Okay, so this is how CSS variables work. We're going to set the background to the variable background dark, which we have specified here, and the color of the font dark, which you can see is the whitish color. And we do the same for the rest of the things that we want to change. Okay, so HTML data theme dark, nav UL last of type, and list first of type is going to have the RGB border and the background. I don't know why I had a border there, but it means that this learn more, when we select dark, is going to change to what we have here. Okay, that's why I told you that in order to make this simpler, just try to keep a color palette that is not too busy. Okay, and you can actually change using dark mode to some colors that are not or too bright or too dark. Okay, so you need to keep an eye on that. That's why I decided to go pretty simple with this. And also HTML, of course, checking if data dash theme dark is set, then we set the navUL list A to be the font dark. So it's going to change this one, and in order, if we have others, it's going to change those links too. So of course, let's say save this, and let's even change it and see if this works right now. I haven't tested this. And you can see when we select or we change to the dark here, it's going to grab those and change it, grab what we have inside the main CSS. And this is why I wanted to do it with just plain CSS, because SAS or SCSS is simpler, but you might have a project where you cannot change to CSS, and well, I mean, where you are only using CSS and you cannot change to SCSS, and this is the way that you are going to do it. So let's go back and change actually. Okay, not what the hell am I doing? This one, okay. And light. Save this, and okay, you can see that it changes. Now let's add the rest. So let me just grab these ones. You can also say here in dark mode settings, something like that. Just copy that, paste it, and end dark mode settings, something like that, just for you to see where you are inside this dark mode. And the light mode, you can add that, but let's just keep it there. So body, padding 0, margin 0, and we're going to use the Open Sans, which is the font that I have here. It's going to be the font that you selected from Google Fonts. The nav is going to be display flex, justify content space between, in order to separate those two navs, or I mean those two ULs that we have, and align item center. So we save this and we take a look, and you can see the font changes, and this is going to look weird, but we're going to fix that. Let's go and continue with the nav. So let me just copy all this and paste it. So we have the nav UL list A, which is going to be, so all this is for the light mode. Okay, so color in this 333, text decoration none, and of course, in case we need to override something, we just override it here, but we don't need to do that, at least in this example. UL, the first of tab UL, and the list anchor inside the first UL is going to have this bold font weight and 20 pixels, which is, if I save this, is this one. Okay, and you can see that it fixes the other one. So nav UL last of type is going to also be display flex and align item center, and we're going to set the margin to be 0, 10 pixels for the last list item. I mean, for the list item inside the last UL. So let's grab this, and this should be the end of the nav. So nav UL last of type, the last UL inside the nav, and the first list item inside that last UL. Okay, so it's going to have the border 1 pixel solid 222, padding 1020, border radius 24, and background 222. You can also use the variables, but well, however fits you. So, and of course, this is just an example. It's not something that, you know, in order to go all through all that, through all variables, CSS variables. So actually, if you know how to use SAS or SCSS, well, you can just specify all your variables and then move them and set them wherever you want. In fact, it should be the font light. So, but as I said, this is just an example. So selector, the selector is going to have border 1 pixel solid red. So the selector, do I have the selector or did I change that? It seems that I changed that. Okay, so let me just what if I no, this is not actually in here, I think. So let me just delete that. Navul list span. Okay, the spans is going to have cursor pointer in order to give it this kind of bottom experience. Width and height is going to be 36 and the border radius 50% for us to set it as a circle. Display inline block and the border 1 pixel solid 999. So I didn't save that. Sorry, let's save this. And you can see we have these two. Okay. Now that's the Navul list span. Let's say we have an active. Okay. So the active, the class active, we already have it inside this. Okay, remember that you can set multiple classes inside this. Okay, so we have this class active on the light, meaning that the light is selected. So we're going to set the position relative and to give it the 2 pixel solid and this kind of orange color. And to this active, we're going to append after the content of the tick. Okay, so this is going to be the tick. Position absolute, color is going to be whitish. Border radius, we're going to set also border radius to 50% because we want it to be this is going to be kind of a div. Okay, so we want it to be rounded. Top 8 pixels and left 8 pixels in order to set it inside the center of this circle, as you can see. And display block and the rest with 20 and that. So you can see we have this and this kind of move. That is kind of move there, but well, let's just leave it there. Maybe I missed something, but we're going to fit it in a second. So we have this dark and light, which in fact are the classes inside this span. So we add class dark and class light and we give them the backgrounds that are going to set it. Okay, if we click, of course we cannot change anything because the JavaScript is not set. Now okay, I forgot, we have a container and I added that before, I mean after all that. So let's just say below the nav, well, just here, because the nav is inside actually. So we're going to set this class container to be width 80%, maximum width 160. Okay, I mean a 1600 pixels, margin 0 auto to be center, and we're going to center everything inside. And you can see, and that also fixes the settings here. So right now we have this centered. So we have only a few things left. So the header, padding top and padding bottom are going to be 100 and 160. So the paragraph inside the, or not, it's not the, okay, seems that it's not only that paragraph, but that paragraph, sorry, but every paragraph is going to have width 40% and margin 0 auto, so those aren't too long. Okay, so you can see. And we have the images container. Images container, display flex, margin top 40 pixels, and justify content, which are in fact the two that are going to be displayed here. And you can see that those are not actual images, but divs with class image1 and image2. Why I did that? Because I wanted, or I was planning to add some hover effects, but I ended up not doing so. So we give the image1 and image2 a width and height, okay, the width of 400 pixels and the height of 320 pixels, and the margin of 10 pixels. So we save that and are here, okay, but we are not setting any background to those. So we set the image1 to be this Unsplash. So let me just show you, and you can see the image. In case you want to work with images, how I got those? Well, let me just grab one that I could like. Maybe this one. If I go and open image on new tab, it's going to give me the URL. Just copy that. It's not this one, it's this one, and let's change one. Control B, save, and you can see that of course it's going to depend on, because this image is too small. Let me just find another one. Well, or just leave it like that. Well, let's just actually go back to where we were. And this is kind of kind of an office thing, so I decided to do these two images. You can find them on Splash, I think on Office something maybe. So okay, let me just close this. Okay, so we have those two, and let me just toggle word wrap so you can see we have this center. So it's going to be, the image is going to be centered inside the div, and that's why we set it as a background, because we can move and show the section of the images that we want to show. So far so good. We finished this little HTML landing page. Okay, but we cannot select. Okay, we can click here, but we are not selecting anything, and that is something that we're going to see in the next video.